Hey guys, welcome back. I am just giving you a follow-up video to show you some progress that I've had with my rescue orchid. I have another rescue orchid that I haven't shown you yet, actually two of them, and I will explain the story behind them. Both treated in different ways for different reasons, but I will get into them in a minute. I just want to show you our spray culture orchid doing very well. Roots are growing at an alarming rate. You can see the new roots right there, much bigger than they were a little over a week ago. Just amazing, amazing, amazing. The new leaf continues to grow, still nice and supple and hydrated, this leaf as well. And the aerial roots haven't really done too much, but the new roots are really what I'm concerned about, and they are doing very well. Again, just spray culture. I mist the roots, soak them down, and every few days I come and I notice and see if there's any water left in there. Once it's dry, I spray it once again to give the moisture. I also added a touch of fertilizer this last time, and I will do that every once a week or twice a month, and see how it goes. But so far so good. Plant is doing really well. Again, spray culture, save my orchid. Another rescue I have is this beautiful one here. It was a clearance orchid at a big box store from Lowe's, I'll tell you the truth. And it was not doing well at all. You can see how the leaves, they're better now, but they were drooping from lack of moisture. They weren't being watered. They weren't being taken care of at all. So I pulled it out of the pot to take a look, and the roots were almost all dead. They were, if they weren't dead and dried out, they were very, what do you call it, very woody. So I knew that they were in desperate need of some help, so I cleaned them off. I cut some of them back, and I tried the water culture. Water culture wasn't working. I wanted to hold on to these blooms as long as I could, so I knew that if I just threw them into water culture with limited roots, it was not going to do so well. No oxygen to the roots, probably would have drowned a little bit. So I said, let me do something that I've done before, but I never really spoke about. I took yarn. I chained it up, made a crochet chain out of yarn. Let me tell you something. Yarn has a lot of uses with plants, and it doesn't really get any recognition, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. A lot of people are using microfiber. I don't like using microfiber because for me, what I've experienced is depending on how you use it, it can really engulf those roots and waterlog them. So what I did was I did this chain of yarn. Let me pull this out and show you. And wrapped the chain around the roots all the way into the bottom of the vessel. Let me get this back in there. And what ended up happening was the water that I leave at the bottom of the vessel wicks up the yarn, and it keeps the roots, as you can see, nice green, and supple all the time. Not waterlogged, but the entire root, even the part that's not touching the yarn, stays nicely moisturized. So this plant bounced back. I almost lost all the blooms. The three that are up here now are doing really well. They're not blasting. They're not starting to get wilty. Doing really, really well. And I don't expect any more blooms to come from this, but the whole point of this exercise was to just keep the blooms as long as I could, but also keep these roots alive and well, because they were not doing well at all. So I definitely recommend the yarn. So next one up we got is this one. Another rescue orchid. Wasn't in as bad shape as the one I just showed you. I got them at the same time though, and again on clearance. What I did was I took the roots out, I examined them before I removed anything, and I noticed the roots weren't in bad shape. So I know from my past experience that kokedamas with orchids do really, really well for me. So I figured, all right, let me wrap them up with the yarn. Again, another thing with the yarn, it does retain moisture, but also allows air circulation. So definitely my favorite wrap when I'm using moss wraps for any type of plant is yarn for that reason. So done really, really well to the point where I've got a spike here. Let me lower this so you can see it. Look at this beautiful spike. Very healthy spike. Probably going to open up in a week or two, I'd say. It's growing a lot faster now because without any pot around the roots, and they get so much oxygen, so much aeration, but I can definitely keep this damp, either misting it or sitting it in the dish that I keep it in, so that it soaks up the moisture. But this plant is thrilled. The leaves have not wilted. It's doing really well, and that spike is growing extremely fast. So yeah, those are the 3 orchids right now. All 3 rescues. 2 of them were clearance. I feel so bad for the clearance. I always have to try to save them. Back here's a cattleya that I've had in a kokedama in a moss wrap for years, but it was neglected. I had it in my other place. I haven't been watering it enough, and so I brought it here to this new grow space that I'm in, and I got a new growth. So hopefully I'll get some blooms on this one because it's about time. Another rescue here, the mini phal, just in moss in a small shallow cup, but doing well. Aerial roots are doing really well. I missed this one a lot, like I do with this orchid, this spray culture that I'm using. But yeah, so takeaways from this video: mist culture, spray culture doing really well for this orchid. Roots are growing like crazy, so are the leaves. Yarn, a very helpful tool when you want to rescue orchids, or even just as a culture method in order to keep moisture and fertilizer, whatever it is you want to do, around the roots. It works extremely well. And lastly, my moss wraps, also known as kokedama, although not a complete kokedama because there's no soil on these guys. But again, the yarn wrapping the moss around the roots does extremely, extremely well. So that's it for this update. Yay, look at those roots. I love them. I just want to chew on them. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you in the next video.